This is George from High Tech Legion. Almost exactly 2 years ago, Phanteks released their first product into the market, the TC14PE air cooler. Simply put, that cooler turned out to be what is generally considered the best air cooler ever available on the market. It's beautifully built, very attractive, comes in a variety of colors, but more importantly, it's the best performing air cooler we have ever seen. Subsequent releases followed exactly the same suit. Now this year at Computex and other shows, there were glimpses of a case coming from Phanteks. And it was very obvious from the onset that their goal in the case world was exactly the same as what they were accomplishing in air cooling. And today we're going to get our first hands-on look at the Enthoo Primo from Phanteks. Since the glimpses we've seen of the Enthoo Primo, there's been an incredible amount of excitement surrounding it, and with very good reason. The functionality of the unit is absolutely off the charts, especially in terms of water cooling, which of course is a little strange considering Phanteks is the premier air cooling company on the market to date. But the Enthoo Primo, besides having incredible support for air, has some of the most extensive water cooling support we've seen. Now this functionality definitely comes into play when you take a look at the Enthoo Primo. If you're looking at it, it does have kind of an odd appearance, and the reason for that being it's a very Bauhaus design. Form follows function. So it wasn't designed with a look in mind and trying to cram things in. The looks of it are reflective of the functionality. So when you take a look at it, you notice right off the bat, it's got two distinct sections. You've got a case here and this almost like a side case right here off to the side. Very important to note that because you do have two separate chambers inside. You've got an entirely thermally isolated rear section for the power supply and some water cooling as well. But getting a look at the case itself, as you can see, the front finished with a nice brushed aluminum look with vented area right here for two 140mm fans. You've got runner down the side, which actually provides ventilation for the rear chamber of the case. And down the side, we've also got a strip with a blue LED and your power button right on the side. Now, nice thing up front here, dust filters and cleaning the fans, very easy to get to. Door opens. You've got 5 optical drive bays, and with the door open, you can actually just press and click the front open. It does take a little pressure and it will drop down. Your fans clearly visible right here, and inside your dust cover right here, easily cleanable. And it is screwed in. You can actually take the screws out and use it just with pop outs if you like, if you're going to be cleaning it quite a bit. Also makes the fans very easy to change, as you see, should you ever have a desire to change a fan. These are blue LED fans, so if you did want to swap out to another different color or wanted to go to a non-LED fan, not a problem, very easy to swap out. But more importantly, as I say, very easy to get to. Really very nice design. And goes back into place just as easily. The pops are a little tight, so you might need to press a little bit hard to get them in and out. Moving behind the front door, in the nose of the case, you have the 5 optical drive bays that we said. As you can see, the knockouts are very well vented. You can see all the way through to the back of the case without a problem. It's going to be great for getting airflow through here as well. Even with the door closed, you will have somewhat airflow going through, as it is a little bit open on the side to get some air in. Now, as far as replacing optical drives and whatnot, or changing these out, couldn't be simpler. Just press the 2 sides and these come right in and out the knockouts. So very easy to work with. When we move up top on the Enthoo Primo, things stay interesting. Take a look here. First off, you've got the blue LED light strip, which runs alongside. Then we have a channel right here, and as you can see, vented for more air intake for the rear chamber of the case. You've got your front I/O up here, lights on and off, all your LEDs. Now, interesting thing that we're going to see when we get inside, there are actually 4 additional LED powers running off of this switch. So in addition to the 2 front fans, it's got hookups for 4 more LEDs. Reset button, your USBs, which do have covers, which is actually very nice. Rubber cover, keeps the dust out. 2 3.0s and 2 2.0s, and your front panel audio right behind it, headphone and microphone. Now up top you see you've got a very, very large vented area. One of the main attractions of the Enthoo, as I said, is water cooling capabilities, and it can take a 480 millimeter radiator up top or on the bottom. Now getting to the top, once again, dust filters, press, pops up, there you have it. And you've got an entire empty area right here to mount your radiators down the bottom. You can do fans on top. Radiators will not fit up top, even a slim radiator. You've got exactly 25 millimeters to work with up here, so you can actually do a fan on top if you're going to be doing push-pull, but you can't do the rad up top. So very, very, like I say, very easy to get to once again, and very well crafted. Pops right back into place and secures with the 2 pushes. Going over on the left side of the case, see, obviously all black with 2 very large smoked windows. First, obviously, for the system itself, and you've got a second window over here. We've got removable components inside, but right now what you see is the Phanteks nameplate coming through there. Obviously, with the room you've got here, as you see, between the components inside and the side of the case, you can definitely do some lighting in there if you like, and you've got some good room to hide it up here and behind in the hard drive area as well. Down below the windows, interesting again, you've got dust filter, 2 of them on the bottom. Once again, push, click, and they will pop out, as you can see, and just pull them right out. Nice dust filter, and again vented. You've got good room down the bottom of the case to get air into the bottom fans, as you see, and replacing dust filters just as easy. Line them up, push them into place, and with a click they lock. Moving to the rear of the case, do find some interesting things going on. 140 millimeter fan, as you can see, slotted so the fan can be moved up and down as necessary. Cutout for your I/O plate, PCI expansion slots, power supply cutout right down here on the left hand side. As you can see, it is mounted in a vertical position, not a horizontal position. Right next to it you see there's a second opening for either a fan, 120 or 140, or as you can see there's a cutout for a second power supply. It is dual power supply capable, so if you're not putting a radiator down on the floor in the main chamber, you can put a second power supply. Right above here, you see the notch outs, is for a reservoir. So you've got a reservoir mount in the rear as well. Also, you get a good view in the rear of exactly how raised the case is. It sits a good inch off the ground on the stand, so you do have great airflow from underneath. So if you are going to be mounting a radiator down at the bottom, you're going to be able to get good air intake, or if you're just mounting fans for an air cooling system, or fans for anything that for that matter, you're going to have a good amount of air intake. It is going to be able to breathe. The right side of the case may appear a little plainer, as you see, plain black. You've got cut out here for air intake for your power supply. You've also got cut out here, and as you can see there are screws, and you can see the dust cover through for 120 millimeter, or I should say, yeah, 120 millimeter fans or 240 millimeter radiator for air intake. So as long as we're back here, let's get side panel off and start taking a look at the inside. 2 thumb screws in the back, obviously, and cases are winged and will come off. And taking a look at the inside of the door, got a magnetic dust filter for the power supply, and up front you do have a plate for noise blocking on here, which is removable if you're going to be using front 120/240 up in the front. So we'll get that out of the way, and we can take a look at exactly what we've got inside. You've got a lot going on here behind the motherboard tray, as you can see. First off, you've got this isolated area down here for the power supply. Power supply, like I say, is going to sit in a vertical position, not horizontal. Right next to that, is a pump stand for a liquid cooling pump. It is rubber coated and has rubber feet. It is mountable in 3 different positions, front, rear. We'll also be able to mount it here, which I'll show you after we've got the removable hard drive bays out. Now, as you can see, you've got built-in Velcro ties all around. All of your cables are pre-routed. You've got great entry points into the other chamber for your cabling or for your tubing if you're using liquid cooling. As you can see, once again, you're grommeted all behind this cabling as well. Now, taking a look here, this odd thing is in fact a PWM fan controller. You can plug up to 11 fans in to one PWM control. This will actually attach the 4-pin to your motherboard to a PWM header and will control up to 11 3-pin fans. Really interesting choice by Phanteks in a way to go, but obviously really nice that you've got an 11 fan controller that you can control by PWM built right into the case. Going up top, you've got 4 LED leads, so you can plug 4 more LEDs right into that switch as we had discussed before. You've got 2 Molexes, 1 for the LEDs and 1 for the fan controller itself. The fan controller obviously is not going to try and pull power from a PWM header for 11 fans. It goes straight to a 4-pin, which will connect directly to your power supply, as you see here. Moving on the back side of the optical drives, see there are 2 brackets installed up here. They are simply pressure fit in and slide out. 2.5-inch drive mounts. Drive obviously screws in, then goes into place, and will pop into place. Got 2 of them there. Now also you've got space to mount the drive behind the motherboard if you like, and it will pop into place exactly the same way over here as it does behind the optical drives. So you've got good flexibility with 2.5-inch drive mounting. Moving down, we've got 6 hard drive bays, 3.5s, each using a hard drive tray, as you see here. Simple 2 wing clips go out, hard drive falls into place. You've got pins on the bottom to hold it into place, then snap into place, and the hard drive will go back in. Now the cages themselves are modular. You've got 2 3-bay cages, which are held in by thumb screws, slide right out. Forgot to remove 1 thumb screw. And they slide right out and right on rails, so you can actually use just the top spot if you wanted to, freeing up the bottom. Use a pump stand right down here if you so desire. Obviously not a problem. Pump stand comes out and does have adapters to fit right onto here, so you can put your pump right here. You could also put a small reservoir right here, whatever you're looking to do. Now also, if you are going to be using a radiator up front, as you can see, pump stand goes right down in, and once again thumb screws into place. If you're going to be using a radiator up front, the hard drive cages will obviously have to come out, and you'll be mounting the radiator this way, 120 millimeter or 240 millimeter, I should say, or 120 if you so desire, and you will have enough room for the radiator and fans. So just to give you a quick look, 2 thumb screws hold in the base for the hard drive cages. That comes out and is replaced as you see here with a holder for a dual 120, or like I say, a single 120 if you like, radiator and fans, or just fans if you're doing air cooling. Of course, this is not going to work out very well if you are using the front hard drive cages, the 3.5s. You should actually have them removed. You might be able to squeeze it in there, but it's going to be a very, very tight fit. As I say, with the cage in, you don't have a whole lot of room back here. You could do slim fans here if you did want to cool the hard drives. And with the left panel off, we can move into the main chamber. Some very interesting things going on here. As you see, you've got a complete cover for your optical drives as well as your hard drives. Phanteks logo down the bottom, that is removable if you want to open a hole for some reason, or if you want to take it off and put something in there, if you want to mod it, put your own nameplate in there, not a problem whatsoever. But also this is going to add structural support when you don't have the hard drive cages in. So you're going to have great structure even if you're not using hard drive cages. Optical drives, simple push and lock with a push to unlock. You've got 140 millimeter fan in the bottom, set space for a second, riding on a fan adapter. You've got a 140 millimeter fan up top and in the back. As we said when we looked at the back, it is on slotted mount, so you can move it up and down as you see necessary, which of course may be the case depending on the radiator you're using, or if you want to line it up with an air cooler, not a problem. You can see the rear cutout is absolutely enormous, not going to have any problem with back plates or swapping out coolers or mounting any type of block whatsoever. You've got very, very good access, which we'd seen before, to the back of the case, and that includes now right here you've got what is basically a cover for cabling, so you're going to hide the cabling, as well as a reservoir mount if you are going to be using liquid cooling, so you can mount a reservoir here as well. So it definitely adds to the look as well as being fully functional. Now something to mention, you've got great cable routing and tubing routing running behind here, as we're going to see in a second when we get this off. You're open completely to the back. So cabling, tubing, no problem routing anything whatsoever. And it's actually kind of funny, with so much going on behind the motherboard tray, it's actually pretty simple up here. Very simple design, but very, very good looking and very functional. Now, as we said, you can fit up to a 480 millimeter radiator up top, up to a 480 millimeter radiator on the bottom. However, anything over 240, you are going to have to lose the bottom hard drive cage. Up top, of course, if you're going with a larger radiator, it may impede on your optical bays. But you can fit just all types of cooling. Now, of course, you could also do another 120 right here. You could do another 140 right here. You've just got a mammoth amount of options for radiators and liquid cooling in the case. Getting a closer look at the wiring covering. First off, front plate is held in by 4 screws. Remove the screws and it will pop out. And just blank plastic plate, as you can see, but gives a nice appearance. Going to cover all the cabling coming through to your motherboard. Now, once you've removed that, you take a look and you've got a cutout here so you can fit a larger GPU, as well as pre-drilled holes to hold a reservoir. So you've got your reservoir bracket right here and cut out for large GPU, and you still get some cover, as you see right here, for your cabling. And once again, as I say, open completely to the back here, so you can definitely do some good routing of cables, or as I say, routing of tubes for liquid cooling. So now, looking at GPU considerations, with the entire faceplate installed, you've got 257 millimeters of clearance. Take that out, you gain another 20 millimeters, so 277 millimeters. That's actually an important number. That is just over the length of a Titan or GTX 780 or 770, so you will be able to fit those in here with the reservoir bracket installed. However, if you're going to go larger, or you have need, the entire bracket comes out, 4 thumb screws, obviously from the back of the case, and you're entirely opened up. Now, this is going to open you up to 315 millimeters of clearance, which should be plenty for anything on the market right now. Now, also, if you move the front hard drive cage to the forward position, which can be done, that'll get you up to 390 millimeters of clearance. With the hard drive cage out entirely, that's going to open you up to 515 millimeters of clearance. Now, also, you can see here clearly that we do have the openings all the way through for this entire area is open, like I say, for cables or tubing. You also have down here an open hole that is grommeted, round hole, to go back if you are using a reservoir or tubing coming up to a radiator from a pump mounted behind here. You've got the opening right here to run straight up. removing the nose of the Enthoo Primo front panel. Underneath, tug, and it's pressure fitted. It is wired in. You will have to disconnect the LED lead, and it comes away. So as you see, you've got good open area here to work with. Should you want to do anything, do any modding. And top comes off exactly the same way. Push up top. And top is off. So stripped down to a skeleton, the Enthoo Primo is actually a very, very rigid case. There's a good reason it weighs in at about 47 pounds, or I shouldn't say 47, I should say about 40 pounds. Reason for that being it's made of very, very high quality steel. It's not the amount of components, it is the actual density of the components used. Very good structure, as you can see, very easy to work with. You've got a lot of open room, so definitely going to be a lot of fun putting this back together, which is exactly what we're going to do right now with some components. Naturally, to start the build, we're going to need our accessories. And Enthoo Primo accessories, pretty simple. Got a bag with some more cable ties, both standard zip ties as well as Velcro, and 2 padded stands if you're going to be doing a power supply in the front chamber. And you can set the power supply right on that. User's manual, multilingual, well illustrated, as you see. And finally, the Enthoo Primo toolbox, which completely sectioned off, great little screw assortment, really fantastic, give you just extras of everything, so anything you're going to be doing, you're good to go. You notice there are some standoffs in here. Now the standoffs are actually built into the motherboard tray for ATX. If you're going to be using ETX, or EATX I should say, there are included extra standoffs. First step of the assembly, obviously we're going to install the motherboard. As I said, the standoffs for ATX are already in place, built into the motherboard tray. So I've put the rear I/O in, and I'm going to just drop the motherboard into place. Now obviously I've already installed the cooler outside of the case, simply because it's a lot easier. However, you've got, like I say, a ton of room behind the motherboard, or I should say the motherboard tray opening is just huge, so you're going to have no problems there. So with it in place, we can just line it up. 9 screws, and we're into place. So with the motherboard in place, you can see even with the Phanteks TC14PE, which is a very, very large cooler, obviously, you've got a great amount of working room up top. You can really get to everything on the top of the motherboard without a problem. So motherboard goes in just as easy as would be expected. Next, I'm going to head around to the back of the case, put in the power supply, as you see in the cutout for the PSU. Now, you've got stands right here, all with rubber for anti-vibration damping. I should say vibration damping. And power supply will slip right into place in the horizontal position. You want to face the fan out so that it's facing the intake point on the side panel so it can breathe. Next, I can start installing my add-on cards. The PCI expansion slot knockouts are held in place with thumb screws, as are the cards themselves when you put them back in. So take that right out. First card will go in. And we'll just lock it right into place with the thumb screw. Next, we'll start getting our drives installed, beginning with the SSDs. SSD tray come right out. As you see, each one will hold 2 drives, bottom or top. Simply put the drive into place. Screw it in. And it's worth noting these are the same screws that are used for the motherboard standoffs. Get the holes aligned. And we can then pressure fit, push, and it's in place. Moving on to the 3.5-inch drives, they really couldn't be any easier. Just pull out the tray. As you see, 2 side clips will come out. Drop the drive into place, and it will align with the studs on the bottom. Side clips back in, and pop it right into place. I am going to be using only the top tray. I'm going to remove the bottom hard drive cage to get a little bit more air going into the system. And as we saw earlier, thumb screws out and it pulls right out. That's going to open up a nice air channel into the main chamber. Optical drive installation does require the nose to be back on the case, and very simple. After you've pinched out the cover, just go in, slide the drive right through the nose into place, get it lined up, and give a push and it'll lock. It's definitely worth noting. Push release, as you see, the optical drive clip does not actually go in very far, and almost feels like it's not clipping at all, but it is actually working. So you might think it's not going in, but you'll feel the drive will actually be secured, and you can always add screws to the rear or to the other side if you like. So now all of our components are in. Installation was very, very easy for everything. Now it's just going to be a matter of getting it wired up. With cable routing completed, looking around the front side, you get a nice, really clean install. The cover over the cables really helps out, and also the openings in the motherboard tray are perfectly placed, so you can really get everything run the shortest distance humanly possible. Now, I am using quite a few connectors in this build, as you know, but cable routing in the back actually stays pretty clean thanks to the well-placed holes in the motherboard tray as well as the built-in tie-downs. Really no excuse not to have decent cable routing with this case. You do have a glut of connectors right here, however, due to the PWM fan hub, the LEDs, and the LED strip. So that is one area you need to watch out for right here in the center. Plus you're going to have your motherboard 24 pin running up through there as well. So you will have a little bit of a glut right here. Other than that, very clean in the rear. Now I installed the reference cooling GTX 660 just to show you that you do have enough room for a 660 and some 670s using the full plate here, the full cover. If you're going to go to something larger, obviously, like 780, a Titan, a 680, the cover is going to have to come off. As you can see, with the cover removed, you will see some more of your cabling. You'll see your SATA cables, USB 3 connector, a little bit more of your motherboard connector. However, a 780 or a Titan will go right into place. Now, one thing that's not mentioned anywhere, this cover is just plastic. There's no reason you can't notch it yourself using a Dremel, knife, whatever you want to use, and put it into place with a larger card in place. But you do have 277 millimeters of room with the cover off and only 257 with the cover on. So if you're going to be going to a larger GPU, you're going to have to use the cover off. Now, kind of odd, the notch out is really kind of in a strange place. if you're going to use a second larger GPU, it's not going to fit with the reservoir holder on it, reservoir bracket on at all. You're going to have to remove the entire thing if you're going to add a second larger card down below. Moving on to some liquid cooling, we already took a look at the front where the hard drive cages are, side mount for a radiator as well as the front mount. Now up top, as you see, with the top panel dust cover removed, you have full access. As you can see, you've got room for a 480 up top, up to a 480 I should say, as well as a 140, 280, or 420. So you can actually have quite a bit going up top. Now I've got the optical drive bay in, so I'm not actually going to be able to go all the way up to the front, but as you can see, a 240 fits right in the back. You've got space, plenty of space for a 360, or if you want to go up to a 420. So all we're going to do is put it into place, and we can then screw it tight. And as you see, the mounts are slotted, so you can move it backwards and forwards to suit the needs of your build. The bottom radiator is a little bit trickier. As you can see, there's a tray here. You've got one screw right up in the corner, one opposite it on the back of the motherboard tray, and two in the rear. With those 4 screws removed, the bottom tray will remove along with the bottom fan. With the bottom tray removed, you can see you've got your mounts for 120mm based radiators down the bottom. They do extend all the way out to the front if you remove the front hard drive cage base. And you can fit up to a 480 going all the way out to the front, but obviously you're not going to be able to use the bottom hard drive cage, nor will you be able to use the base if you're going to use that for a pump. So 120 based units down the bottom. Now we're actually going to do a 140mm based unit, so we're going to be using the bottom standoff. So using the bottom radiator bracket, very simple, just keep in mind what's front, what's rear. The Phanteks 140s are actually very good fans. There's absolutely no reason not to use them for a 140mm based radiator. So I'm actually going to use the case fans for my radiator. Lay them on top. Then lay the bracket right on top and screw everything together. And as you can see, you've got tons of room down the bottom. Even using push-pull on a 60mm radiator, you're still below the lip where the motherboard actually starts, so you're not blocking anything. As a matter of fact, the push-pull with a 60mm actually fits in there very nicely and looks right at home. In terms of pump mounting, the actual included mount, you can mount your pump to the mount, and it can go underneath your hard drive cages. There are 3 positions pre-drilled inside, or you can come in the back with 2 positions here and have your pump facing the direction that is going to be most beneficial, obviously, to your build. Real nice thing about having it in the back, gets it out of the way, keeps it hidden. If you do want it more visible, obviously you can bring it up front and mount it anywhere you like within the case. But the included pump mount with the vibration dampening, great feature to have, and plenty of flexibility as far as where to mount it. If you're mounting the pump in the rear of the motherboard tray, you do have a good amount of room to work with. Now you are going to be right in front of the power supply, so you are going to have cables running near the pump. There's really no way around that. But you got plenty of clearance around it without too much of a problem. As we say also, if you're using a smaller power supply, it can be moved back about a ½ inch, or if you opt, you can go into where the bottom hard drive cage normally resides. Also, this is a very nice setup in that you've got good room to get your cables around without having to make any tight bends. Going around the front side, you wind up with a really beautifully clean install. You've got plenty of room for cable routing, as you see, plenty of room for your tubing routing. Obviously, the radiators top and bottom, you've got tons of room, so you can do just about anything you want and keep it clean. Obviously, Reservoir went on the back. You can also go up on the side, but in the end, beautifully clean install. And as we said earlier, the bottom radiator, you've got a ton of room. You've got a 60mm thick radiator, push-pull, does not even come up near the motherboard. You've got a good another 20mm before you get to the ledge before the motherboard. So really, you've got outstanding room on the bottom to do a radiator as well. And as we say, you can, if you're going with a 120mm form factor, extend into the hard drive base space, so you can do up to a 480. Very similar situation up top. 240 just about fills out this, but you can actually mount your mount back a little bit, extend into the optical base space, and go up to a 480 on top as well. So we've seen just how easy it is to do a really nice clean build in the Phanteks Enthoo Primo. One of the other nice things, we've talked about the additional LEDs leads off of the LED switch, so if you are going to do any cathode lights or anything of that nature, you can operate it right off the switches, which is exactly what I've done. So the LED switch up front will turn on the side light, front fans, and is turning on the cathodes. Of course, if you're using LED fans, you can wire them up as well. Just a really nice touch. But of course, beauty's only skin deep, so really it's going to come down to performance as well. So let's take a look at what the Enthoo Primo does with air cooling. We're not going to test water cooling because it is entirely loop dependent, so we're going to test it with the Phanteks PHTC14PE. I really don't think there was any question that the Enthoo Primo was going to be an outstanding performer with air cooling given Phanteks' history in air cooling. As you saw, performance results were very, very good all around, especially on the GPU. Taking out the top hard drive cage really boosts the CPU cooling performance and really opens up the airflow. So, did the Enthoo Primo really live up to the hype? Absolutely. It's probably one of the most complete cases out there, obviously one of the most flexible as far as liquid cooling, but has great air cooling performance as well. The layout may seem odd, but as you're building it actually becomes very, very intuitive. Everything's laid out exactly where it should be, and maybe not where you'd expect it, but where it actually seems it should have been in the first place. So while you're building it becomes, like I say, very intuitive, very easy with cable routing, and also your cooling tube routing, I should say. So while you're building, it's really a very easy build. Everything fits together perfectly. It's very, very well constructed. Obviously a very beautiful case. Also, it's a very, very quiet case. Even with all 5 fans going, it's absolutely very quiet, especially on the lower speeds naturally. But even at the highest speeds, it's a much quieter case than what we're typically used to with that much airflow. So there's really no stone left unturned that Phanteks didn't think of in this case. They really covered everything from start to finish. The Phanteks Enthoo Primo is an obvious Editor's Choice Award winner. If there are any problems with the case, it would be tiny little nitpicks. The optical drive, tool-free, doesn't work very well, but it's just a matter of putting 2 screws in directly behind it to hold your optical drive in, so that's really not a big deal. We did have a little problem with paint flaking in a couple of places screws were put in, but once again, really not a big deal. The areas that flaked were behind the screw, not an issue at all. The reservoir holder as well as wire plate, which hides the wires next to the motherboard, it does work out. You are limited to a shorter GPU if you're going to be using the cover, but in the end it works out. So all in all, I mean, those are very, very nitpicky things, especially compared to the incredible amount of flexibility and just fantastic build quality of the Enthoo Primo. Once again, an Editor's Choice Award winner for Phanteks.